the biggest knocks on retro role-playing games is that they're too formulaic. And hey, maybe in some cases that is true. A lot of them take place in a medieval setting where people are often terrorized by an evil empire of some sort, where the main protagonist is an unlikely hero that's expected to save the world. So yeah, I kinda get it. Even so, during the 1990s, some developers tried to defy these norms, especially on the Super Famicom. One was Neverland Company, who in 1996 teamed up with publisher Taito to release Energy Breaker, an RPG that dared to do things differently. Unfortunately, like many Super Famicom RPGs, it was never localized in the West, so you'll have to grab a translation patch to play it today. According to the group that released the patch, the localization process took over a decade, and many different people came and went from the project during that time. Every time I hear about these translation stories, I have that much more respect for the people that worked on them, and this case is no exception. Us retro RPG fanatics salute you. The translation patch can be found in the description below. One of the most unorthodox aspects of Energy Breaker is its combat system. It's a turn-based affair that emphasizes strategy. It plays a little bit like Tactics Ogre in Final Fantasy Tactics, but not completely. It's a little hard to describe, but most stages require the defeat of all enemies to progress. Battles take place in preset locations with a preordained set of enemies, so there aren't random encounters in this one. Combat turns revolve around a unique system where each character receives a certain amount of balance units that are proportional to the amount of hit points they currently have. The more hit points, the more balance points. Every action consumes a certain amount of balance, like attacks, special attacks, and items. Upon leveling up, your characters also gain a certain amount of energy points that you have to allocate to fire, water, wind, or earth. What makes the experience customizable is that each of these four elements also has both a light and dark side, and the game leaves how to build your characters completely up to you. Point allocation decisions affect your character's roles and abilities, and different approaches yield very different character outcomes. New special skills are learned by using the proper Grimoire item in combination with specific energy point prerequisites. The way this was done definitely incentivizes replay value and allows the player to embrace the style they want. I really like this part of the game. But hey, the combat system isn't the only thing that makes this game stand out. The story takes place on a fictional island called Zemoria. Myra, who serves as the lead protagonist, has amnesia and constantly has dreams that warn her of a future catastrophe. A large portion of the story involves Myra's quest for identity and emphasizes the cyclical nature of destruction and rebirth. I'm not saying the game doesn't embrace some cliches, but overall it's pretty original. The character sprites and storyline moments seem very inspired by popular anime from that time though, definitely more so than the Final Fantasy games at least, so some will be more enthused about that than others. Still, it's a solid story that unfolds at a good pace with some lovable characters. The title's developer also created the famous Lufia games, and that franchise's influence can also be seen a bit in this one, but it's way less puzzle intensive and the gameplay is much different. Another odd characteristic is that you can toggle between 3 different attitudes: normal, aggressive, and friendly when talking to NPCs. I'm not sure if this has a tangible effect on anything, but it definitely leads to different responses. Energy Breaker's graphics are honestly pretty darn impressive if you ask me. The isometric style makes it play a little bit like Super Mario RPG, of course without the ability to jump. The character animations are equally impressive, and while some of them are corny, they are incredibly detailed. Outside of the game's graphical qualities and isometric orientation, my favorite part is the soundtrack. The quality of the score in this game, like the graphics, is definitely far above the quality I originally expected. It uses a lot of interesting lighthearted melodies, and some of them feature sounds that aren't generally found in RPG soundtracks, like simulated harps. Other songs are groovy and even jazz-inspired, so there's a lot of different styles here. It's kind of like what would happen if Soul Blazer and Final Fantasy had a baby. Voice of Awakening, Ride the Wind, and To the Horizon are a few of my favorites. With 49 songs, it's also not as repetitive as many of the other RPGs on the system. Whatever else is said about it, the producers of Energy Breaker definitely made some daring choices that ensured their game would stand out from almost everything that was out back then. It was a game ahead of its time, and served as a forerunner to some of the best classic strategy RPGs that came after it. The sound and visual quality are probably its greatest strengths. The unfortunate lack of attention for it is probably the result of several factors. It was made by a smaller, lesser-known developer than Squaresoft, and suffered from coming out as the SNES was virtually dying. Even so, it's absolutely positively worth playing with the luxury of the translation patch if you're a retro RPG fan like me. Now I want to hear from you guys. If you played this game before, what did you like about it, and what stands out? If you haven't played it, what looks interesting about it to you? If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell below to be alerted upon the addition of new ones. Also, please join my Discord community linked in the description, and consider supporting my channel via YouTube's Join feature to receive member exclusives, such as advanced videos and complete video transcripts.